Greetings and salutations, everyone. My name is Andrew Kirchhoff, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today we're talking about my Week 10 quarterback rankings for the 2020 fantasy football season. On today's episode, of course, we're talking about all things related to the quarterback position as we start off by talking about matchups. We'll talk about how many points defenses are giving up to opposing quarterbacks on average per week in a 4-point per passing touchdown format. We'll talk about the most advantageous matchups and the matchups perhaps we want to avoid this upcoming week. After that, of course, we'll talk about my top 16 quarterback rankings in a 4-point per passing touchdown format. If you are looking for specific players, you can go down in the description of the video and find timestamps down there. While you're down there, again, rankings are always subject to change, but if you're trying to stay up to date on my latest rankings, you can check out my Patreon channel. The link is down below for those of you who are trying to find extra content outside of the channel. Of course, while you're down there, subscribe to the channel if you have not yet already. We're close to 34,000 subscribers making content every single day on the 2020 fantasy football season. So for those of you looking to stay up to date, just subscribe down below, leave a like down below. It really does help a lot, along with a comment to help us continue to grow this channel. And if you have any questions. All right, so let's get into some matchups at the quarterback position going into this upcoming week. The more advantageous matchup as of this moment in time is the Seattle Seahawks. Of course, Jared Goff coming off the bye week should have himself a pretty good week. We'll talk about him in today's video. Of course, he will be ranked because everybody playing against Seattle has looked good this season. They have given up so many touchdowns to opposing quarterbacks. We'll talk about it in a little bit. Even Josh Allen, coming off of 5 consecutive weeks of being just a below average quarterback at times, really looked like an unstoppable force last week. So again, that's a great matchup to take advantage of. The Atlanta Falcons, unfortunately, will not be able to take advantage of because they are on a bye week, along with the Dallas Cowboys, the New York Jets, and the Kansas City Chiefs. Those are 3 teams that you definitely would have played, a potential quarterback against. But unfortunately, this week, they are not up for grabs. But the Jacksonville Jaguars definitely are giving up the 3rd most points to opposing quarterbacks. And with the streak that Aaron Rodgers has been on and the amount of heat he's been throwing as of late, my goodness, is that going to be a great game for him. The Los Angeles Chargers giving up a lot of points. Tua has himself an opportunity to pick up his 3rd win and continue this streak as a rookie quarterback. I think there's a very good chance that he can do that because, again, the Los Angeles Chargers have been giving up a lot of points to opposing offenses, and those games have typically been shootouts and definitely gone in the direction of other teams very late in those games. The Minnesota Vikings, of course, giving up a lot of points. I don't really think that Nick Foles is a start, but again, they're giving up 2.4 touchdowns per game to opposing quarterbacks. So again, there's always a potential that Nick Foles comes out and slings it and gets himself some points. The New York Jets, obviously, we're not talking about them because they're on a bye week this week. The Las Vegas Raiders taking on Drew Lock. I think Drew Lock, of course, in the past 2 weeks has proven that in the 4th quarter, he is a different animal. But can he get there and sustain, some sort of confidence and find himself some production there? Is his tight end position healthy enough? Are they going to have Noah Fant on the field? And can they go ahead and find success there? But again, one of the better matchups on the week. The Denver Broncos are the other side of the ball there. Derek Carr has himself a good opportunity. The Houston Texans playing against Baker Mayfield should be a nice one. And the other way around, Deshaun Watson playing against the Cleveland Browns. So we should have a lot of shootouts this week in those couple matchups. Should be exciting to see. Just giving you some perspective as to some of the better matchups in a 4-point per passing touchdown format. We move on to some of the tougher matchups. Of course, the Indianapolis Colts have not been giving up much to opposing quarterbacks in general. Of course, Lamar Jackson barely skid by getting himself over 60 rushing yards and a rushing touchdown last week because he could not pass against that defense. Now the question remains, besides the Indianapolis Colts, who are the other defenses specifically that we fear? I think the Bears are definitely a tough one against Kirk Cousins. I don't really think that Russell Wilson is going to be hamstrung by the potential of the Rams secondary. I think he'll be perfectly fine. The Patriots playing against Lamar, I'm not too worried about that because Lamar really hasn't passed against defenses as of late. He has really just been running the ball and finding his utilization there. And the Patriots, they can't really stop the run, so that helps Lamar there. The Pittsburgh Steelers against Joe Burrow, that is definitely going to be tough. They're giving up almost 2 touchdowns per game to every single quarterback this season, so it could be nice. But outside of that, just giving you some perspective, Tampa Bay always tough, but Teddy Bridgewater has been playing like he's a different animal this year. As of right now, just giving you some perspective. We'll cover that, and then we'll go ahead and we'll move into my top 16 quarterback rankings on the week. Again, rankings are subject to change. For those of you who have made it this far, again, please click that like button. It does make a huge difference for the channel. All right, we'll start off with our number 1, Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray has done something that I honestly didn't really know until after this week. Kyler Murray is on pace to be the greatest fantasy quarterback in NFL history, and I'll tell you why. If you go ahead and you take the first 8 games of his current season right now, he has put up 240 points in a 4-point per passing touchdown format. Of course, because of the fact that he has already 500 rushing yards, nearly as much as he had last year, 8 rushing touchdowns, 16 passing touchdowns. He has been an absolute machine this year. If you compare his current points, 240, to Lamar in Lamar's first 8 games of last season, he has nearly 30 more points than Lamar. So again, he is just on a pace that is unstoppable at this point. And it kind of just seems to me that no one can really slow Kyler Murray down. Coming off of a week in which he had 283 passing yards, 3 passing touchdowns, 106 rushing yards, and a rushing touchdown against the defense that was giving up the fewest points to opposing offenses this season, and he ended up dropping over 30 against them, just makes me believe that Kyler Murray is at the point where he's having that MVP kind of season, and he's having that sophomore season that guys like Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, Jared Goff in the past, I know, Deshaun Watson, these guys accelerate and make themselves into absolute monsters in their second years, and he is becoming a part of that trend, and he is my number 1 quarterback on this week. Aaron Rodgers is my number 2. Look at him with the goatee. I like Aaron Rodgers with a mustache and a beard. I mean, I personally have one, but I don't know what it is. Him with that one just doesn't look right. But either way, Aaron Rodgers, this season, he has already 6 games of over 3+ passing touchdowns. That in itself, fantastic. The fact that he plays against the second easiest matchup at the quarterback position, can you ask for more? He plays against Jacksonville. He's coming off of a matchup against the 49ers in which he threw for over 300 yards, 4 passing touchdowns, and he didn't even play in the fourth quarter. So again, he should be able to have another 3+ passing touchdown game, play against the defense. He gets himself Aaron Jones at a full capacity potentially this upcoming week. I mean, even last week he had 20 touches, but again, there's more and more utilization from the running back position. It's just going to be a pretty easy game. Hopefully David Bakhtiari comes back this week to cover his blind side. But even then, they've been playing very well as an offense, and he should be great, especially with Allen Lazard maybe coming back. They've got a lot of pieces that are only going to make this offense better once they return. I'm excited about his potential. Number 3 is Josh Allen. Now, like I was mentioning a little bit earlier, when anybody plays against the Seattle Seahawks defense, they look like they're a completely different human being. Josh Allen went from being an average quarterback for a couple weeks there, coming off of a matchup against Billy B's defense in New England, not looking great. But what, in fact, we saw was just unbelievable. 415 passing yards, 3 passing touchdowns, had a rushing touchdown. The question is going to be, can he step up to the challenge and play against the Cardinals defense? Now, he just beat and put up 40 points against the Seattle Seahawks defense. I mean, it wasn't only a couple weeks back that the Cardinals played against the Seattle Seahawks, and the Cardinals did win in overtime because they forced a lot of turnovers out of Russell Wilson. The same thing happened for the Buffalo Bills. That's how they beat Russell Wilson. They made him turn over the ball twice, and their offense was consistent with Josh Allen. I think this is a fantastic matchup for both teams. I think they're definitely going to push each other. You can only be as good as the opposing offense is against your defense. If they're scoring, you have to come out and score. I think Kyler, Josh Allen, this should be a fantastic shootout between these two teams. Again, I'm expecting Josh Allen after last week to find some more confidence and some consistency. Of course, getting back John Brown does make a huge difference. And the fact that this running game is kind of getting in the right direction kind of makes me feel like Josh Allen should have himself a pretty good week here. He is my number 3. Number 4 is Russell Wilson. Again, Russell Wilson's having himself an MVP kind of season. 28 touchdowns in the first 8 weeks. That's over 3 passing touchdowns per game. Could we ask for more? Not really. But maybe you want to turn over the ball a little bit less than you have as of the last couple weeks. Throwing a couple of interceptions, fumbling a couple times here and there. That's a little concerning. But again, I mean, what are we talking about? The guy just had 390 passing yards, 2 passing touchdowns, a rushing touchdown. I mean, Russell Wilson, you're an animal. Just keep doing what you're doing. We're going to start you regardless. He's consistently producing, playing against the Rams. I know that they're giving up the second fewest amount of points to opposing quarterbacks this season, but it really doesn't scare me at this point. I think, of course, Ramsey's one of the better corners in the league. Aaron Donald's something that they want to avoid, but they play them twice a year. They know what they're getting themselves into, and I expect Russell Wilson to definitely step up to the challenge at hand and be able to deliver for his respective team. He's my number 4. We have number 5, Deshaun Watson. Now, Deshaun Watson's been playing fantastic as of the last 6 games of the season. Now, of course, the firing of Bill O'Brien, beautiful. The chef's kiss, I'll take it any day of the week. But the fact that Deshaun Watson's playing as consistently as he had in the last 6 games, in the past 6 games, Deshaun Watson has had 2+ touchdowns every single game, coming off of a performance, 281 passing yards, 2 passing touchdowns, 24 rushing yards. He's getting more and more comfortable running with those legs. Again, just a couple weeks back, had himself over 60 rushing yards. That's 6 points. That's pretty much a rushing touchdown there. So again, more and more utilization. He plays against the Cleveland Browns. They give up the 9th most points to opposing quarterbacks this season because, of course, their secondary has been beat up all season long. They're coming off of a bye week. They could be potentially more healthy this upcoming week, but I don't expect them to have a good enough secondary in general to be able to stop Brandon Cooks and Will Fuller, who are taking over, and of course Duke Johnson in the passing game, who should help open up a little bit more for Deshaun Watson this week. He's my number 5. Number 6 is Justin Herbert. Now, it shouldn't be a surprise. At this point, Justin Herbert is, I think, the number 8 quarterback in a 4-point per passing touchdown league. He's really up there. Not only is Justin Herbert averaging over 300 passing yards per game this season, but he's averaging over 2+ touchdowns per game in the last 5 games. So again, as long as he is on this pace, he's playing well, he's getting himself into advantageous positions, he's keeping his team in the game. The defense isn't helping very much, but at least he's coming down the field, regardless of who's even in the backfield. He's getting them the ball. He's feasting off of course, Keenan Allen producing very well and Mike Williams, and they're playing well. He's even gotten himself extra points via his legs. He's an athletic quarterback, whether he's running for upwards of 60 yards and a touchdown, or at least a couple scrambles here and there to extend plays, extend drives. I think Justin Herbert continues to produce. I know playing against the Miami Dolphins is a tougher task, but as of right now, I think this might be a shootout between these two teams. You just got to protect Herbert, keep him comfortable in the pocket. He'll be able to deliver for you. He's my number 6. Number 7 is Lamar Jackson. Again, Lamar Jackson playing against the New England Patriots typically isn't something that I'm 100% excited about, but it's just a matter of what I expect this matchup to kind of turn into. If Joe Flacco can go up against the New England Patriots defense and throw 3 passing touchdowns, 2 to Brashard Perriman and 1 to Jamison Crowder, it just makes me think, my goodness. Lamar Jackson should be at least able to throw 1 passing touchdown against them to Marquise Brown. Just throw 1 over their heads. Let it happen. I know Lamar Jackson's coming off of these consistent weeks of, barely passing 200 passing yards or just doing less, just like this past week, only 170 against the Colts, 0 passing touchdowns. At least he didn't throw an interception. But where his utilization, of course, is coming from is from running the ball and rushing touchdowns. 58 rushing yards and a rushing touchdown last year against the New England Patriots defense, in which they exposed Bill Belichick to what the Baltimore offense is really capable of. Lamar Jackson had 61 rushing yards and 2 rushing touchdowns. So again, the fact that the New England Patriots this season, in my opinion, have not been able to consistently stop the run makes me think that there is a very good chance that this team not only going to run the ball well with whoever's in the backfield, whether it's Dobbins, maybe Mark Ingram plays, or Gus Edwards. I think Lamar Jackson will be able to take advantage of it and have himself a pretty good game here as my number 7. Moving on, we have, of course, Drew Brees. Now, Drew Brees is coming off of, his best week of the year. Getting Michael Thomas back is exciting. Unfortunately, Michael Thomas wasn't there to catch anything and just wasn't really utilized, but at least Drew Brees had himself 222 passing yards, 4 passing touchdowns, got a bunch of weapons, at least targets and receptions. And you can just look at this offense and think, my goodness, he has so many threats surrounding him. He has such a stable offensive line who was able to take care of that Tampa Bay rush. That is one of the scariest, defensive lines that is in the league in terms of total pressure. But it didn't matter for Drew Brees. He sat there comfortably, and he's been consistent this year. 6 consecutive games of 2+ touchdowns, and he gets a great matchup against the San Francisco defense. I think in this specific case, considering how well their defense is played, they should be able to cause a lot of 3-and-outs. I know last year when they played against San Francisco, it was a little bit of a shootout, 40+ points each team. That's probably not going to be the case, but this might be a one-sided matchup in which Drew Brees could get up to the 40s. We'll just have to wait and see. He's my number 8 this week. Number 9 is Carson Wentz coming off the bye week, playing against the New York Giants. Now, the last time he played against the New York Giants, week 7, again, he had a fantastic week, 359 passing yards, 2 passing touchdowns, had himself a rushing touchdown, was a fantastic week overall. I'm not surprised that, once again, this week, he could probably do that. He's coming off of 6 consecutive games of 2+ touchdowns, whether it's on the ground or through the air. And as of right now, Alshon Jeffrey seems to be coming back with Travis Fulgham, Jalen Reagor, Greg Ward, continuing to get more and more utilization. You bring back a stud tight end and a player like Alshon Jeffrey, who has so much experience down in the red zone, with Miles Sanders and Jason Peters. My goodness, this offense should look a lot different. I think it'll be a lot more of a blowout than we anticipate in comparison to the last time these two teams played. I think Carson Wentz shows out this week as my number 9. We have number 10, Ben Roethlisberger. Of course, I expect Ben Roethlisberger to pass all protocol and play this upcoming week against Cincinnati Bengals. I don't think the Bengals have beaten the Steelers in the last 4 years. I think that's the stat that I heard this week. So if Ben Roethlisberger wants to continue to do what he's doing, just this past week against the Dallas Cowboys, 300 passing yards, 3 passing touchdowns. It wasn't only a couple weeks back that, of course, the Cincinnati Bengals beat the Tennessee Titans, which, of course, Ben Roethlisberger and the Steelers struggled against. So this could be a game, but again, Baker Mayfield threw 5 passing touchdowns against the secondary. If Ben Roethlisberger comes out and wants to have a day like that, if the weather is looking clean, I think there's a very good chance that he could end up putting a game like that up on the board. I don't really think that Ben Roethlisberger has that kind of high upside this season, considering the running game and they wanting to establish that. So again, he'll probably have himself a 2 to 3 passing touchdown game with some pretty good yardage. And as my number 10 quarterback, I have a lot of confidence in him. Number 11 is Tom Brady. Now, I know he's on the thumbnail, but mainly because of the color scheme. But regardless, the whole point is Tom Brady this week should have a great revenge game. He has a healthy receiving core. I know Mike Evans is getting more and more healthy with his ankle as the weeks progressed. Chris Godwin's been dealing with a finger problem. Antonio Brown finally got his beak wet, and now he should be getting to go in a probably a positive direction as the weeks progress as a starting wide receiver of this Tampa Bay Buccaneers team. The question is going to be, how exactly are they going to attack this defense? Because the last time they played against them, Tom Brady only had 1 passing touchdown because the running game dominated and the defense dominated. So if in fact Tom Brady disappears based on running the ball and just game script in general, then that's going to be unfortunate. But I'm hoping that we get a little bit of revenge and a little bit of anger out of Tom Brady in this offense and specifically this defense, and they put up a fat number on the Carolina Panthers defense. I'm hoping that's the case. I'm thinking there's a very good chance that he does that. And as of right now, against the division rival, why not? He's my number 11. Moving on to our number 12, we have ourselves Tua Tagovailoa. Now, here's the thing. The Miami Dolphins coming off of back-to-back victories against teams that have 5+ wins. That's great. You play against the Cardinals and the Rams, you beat them both. Now you get to take on the Los Angeles Chargers, who honestly cannot win a game to save their lives. They will lose on every single final play of the game until the end of time. And that is the way that they've played. As of right now, the Los Angeles Chargers are giving up, the 6th most points to opposing quarterbacks this season. Also, they've given up 30+ points to opposing offenses this season in just like the past 5 games. Whether it was against Brady or Minshew, it didn't really matter. Derek Carr or Drew Lock, it didn't matter. They're giving up a lot of points to opposing offenses, whether it's early or late. It doesn't matter. Their defense just can't handle it. And if Tua can get himself comfortable, and they're not going to send a lot of pressure at him, and they can kind of slow down Joey Bosa getting after Tua. I know Tua was very athletic last week, got out of the pocket for 35 rushing yards, looked great. There is a very good chance that him and Devontae Parker could have themselves a very good game here. Of course, Matt Breida has been practicing in full. That kind of gives them an extra dimension in this offense that they didn't have last week. I think there's a very good chance that Tua this week has himself a good week because based purely on the matchup and his consistency last week, I think we could see Tua have himself a breakout game here against the Chargers. Number 13 is Joe Burrow, a fellow rookie quarterback. There's 3 rookie quarterbacks on the screen. These guys are the real deal. They truly are. And as of right now, I'm on the train of potentially liking Joe Burrow this week, but I have a little bit of hesitation, okay? Here's my hesitation. When Joe Burrow has played against great AFC teams, specifically the Ravens and the Indianapolis Colts, he has not thrown passing touchdowns against them. But in every single other contest, he's been great. He's been consistent. He's produced well. And just in the past 2 games, he's had 5 passing touchdowns. So again, we've seen some consistency there as of the last couple of weeks, and we've seen some more and more production. Now, the question is going to be, if in fact he plays against the Pittsburgh Steelers and he finds some relevant success, how capable is he of producing 2 passing touchdowns? I think there's a very good chance of that. This season, the only quarterbacks that haven't thrown for 2 passing touchdowns against the Pittsburgh Steelers in the 8 games that they've played is Garrett Gilbert last week and Baker Mayfield. Otherwise, every single other quarterback has thrown 2 passing touchdowns against them. So that's 6 quarterbacks that have had relatively good weeks against this defense because they cannot cover. We've talked about it. They give up the 9th most points to opposing wide receivers. And of course, the wide receiver position for the Bengals is probably their biggest strength with Auden Tate, AJ Green, and of course, Higgins and Tyler Boyd. So these guys, they should be ready to go. I think, of course, Giovanni Bernard being in his backfield, being a passing threat, definitely helps Joe Burrow, especially when the pressure's on him. That his offensive line should be ready and good to go this week. I don't think he's a bad option as my number 13. Jared Goff's my number 14 again. He has the Seattle Seahawks matchup. It's literally the easiest matchup on the week. You couldn't ask for anything else. There's only 2 things that I wanted to mention when it comes to Jared Goff, okay? There's two problems that I have with Jared Goff, and then there's the incredible matchup that we'll talk about. So Jared Goff, there's two types of Jared Goff. There's a Jared Goff that comes out in the game, and literally within, I want to say, the first series, you'll determine what kind of game he's going to have. He either comes out and produces well, gets multiple first downs, or he goes 0 for 3, 0 for 4 in the first drive, and ends up just being an absolute bum for the rest of the game. Now, of course, being a bum early in the game against the Seattle Seahawks isn't a problem, considering the fact that you could probably get a lot of garbage time in the second half, similar to the way that they had against the Miami Dolphins. Of course, you get more utilization out of Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods, Gerald Everett, and you can have yourself a game here. So, I think as of right now, Jared Goff's max potential against the Seahawks is 2 touchdowns. That's pretty much it, because of course, Darrell Henderson should be playing this week. He will vulture a touchdown of some sort, or they'll just hand it off to Robert Woods as he runs in on one of the jet sweep plays that they do every single year, and no one seems to be able to stop. Either way, I think as of right now, his ceiling is 2 touchdowns, 200 yards. That's what I'm thinking, and that's why I have confidence in him. Now, the thing that really kind of leans in the direction of Jared Goff doing more than that is the fact that the Seattle Seahawks this season have given up 21 touchdowns to opposing quarterbacks in their 8 games. That's nearly 3 touchdowns per game to opposing quarterbacks. So again, there's a very good likelihood that he could get past that 2 passing touchdown kind of fringe, but I'm expecting him to kind of sit on the line there and probably not surpass it. Teddy Bridgewater is my number 15. I think if in fact Tom Brady comes out in a revenge game, Teddy Bridgewater is going to have to air it out. He's going to have to, piece up that defense. Sure, the pressure is going to get after him, but I think he's definitely capable of being able to produce with 3 relevant receiving options. When you have more Curtis Samuel and Robbie Anderson playing as well as they have, I know Christian McCaffrey's probably going to miss. You have Mike Davis out of the backfield to catch himself 8 passes potentially. I think Teddy Bridgewater has himself a pretty good chance. He's been playing out of his mind this year. He really has proven that he deserves a starting job, and I'm glad that he has one now in the National Football League, and hopefully he'll just continue to produce. He's just been such a reliable force in this offense. I can't complain about it. The last option I wanted to mention is Ryan Tannehill. I know he has the toughest matchup. The Indianapolis Colts, they only give up like 1.3 touchdowns to opposing quarterbacks this season. But the thing about Ryan Tannehill is there's always a potential that when they play against really good teams on short weeks, they have really good games. And Ryan Tannehill just torches teams. I'm trying to buy into that narrative. If you don't want to, you don't have to. But I have a feeling about Ryan Tannehill tonight on Thursday Night Football, and that could pretty much transition us to our predictions tonight. I know right now, the Tennessee Titans are a 1-point favorite. I think they're +1. I think the Tennessee Titans can get it done. I'm wearing their shirt. I like their running style. Of course, as a former offensive lineman, I like the one that they run the ball to the left. That's what they got to do. Feed the ball to Derrick Henry, and that's what I'm expecting to happen. I think that the Colts, though they are a good team, they could struggle offensively specifically if, in fact, they key in on Phillip Rivers. You just got to stop him. You got to send pressure at him. That's been the toughest thing for the Titans, is sending pressure at quarterbacks. With Clowney out last week, hopefully he returns this week with a vengeance. Either way, I think Ryan Tannehill could have himself a good week. Those are my top 16 quarterback rankings of the week. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Tomorrow, we'll talk about hidden gems. Make sure you check out the Discord link down in the description of the video. For those of you who are trying to find a community just talking about all things fantasy football, I appreciate you guys spending your time here today. Click the like button, subscribe to the channel, and until tomorrow, I'll see you guys. Peace.